and welcome at today's webinar. The topic is SEO 2020, fact-checking, what is the real impact of voice search, BERT, and so on. I am Christina. I'm a junior digital marketing manager at Searchmetrics. I am with Searchmetrics since 1.5 years, and I'm a part of the growth marketing team. And next to me is Malte. He's the VP product of Searchmetrics and I've been, how long are you at Searchmetrics?
Almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years. So I will give you a quick introduction to our webinar console before we start. You see at your window right now some widgets. There is one window which is called Q&A, and you can send us your questions there anytime. We will answer them in the end, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Then there's a box called Knowledge Base, and there we have some links with further information. Right now you can find there a link for to our recent blog post about the January Google update and a link to our newest podcast episode of Voices of Search. Then there's a window with our speaker bio where you find information about us and can contact us. And there's another widget which is called Webinar Help Guide. And there you find some links if you have any technical problems with the webinar. But also if you have some problems with the sound or you can't see the slides, I would suggest that you try to reload the browser at first or try to use another browser, because then usually it works. Within the next week, we will send you an email with the recording of this webinar, so it's no problem if you can't stay for the whole hour, and you can also share it with your colleagues afterwards. And now we have a little task for you. In the end of the webinar, we have a survey where we ask you for some feedback of how you like the webinar and if there are some topics that you would be interested in further webinars. So please take part.
Over to me. Okay, yeah, I'm Malte. I'm the VP product here at Searchmetrics. And if you want to know more, you can find me on Google.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little introduction on what Malte will talk about today. So we will talk about a lot of different topics, the impact of different fields on SEO in 2020, for example, the impact of keywords or voice search or backlinks. And yeah, let's start.
Yeah, then let's get to it. So the first rumor that I often hear about SEO is that keywords are dead. So let's look at that. And let's maybe start with a joke. I've heard that's how you should start with presentations. An SEO expert walks into a bar. Bar's pub, public house, Irish pub. He drinks a beer, wine, liquor, Heineken. Why is this a joke? Well, because if you have done SEO 10, 15 years ago and you wanted to rank for the keyword pub, but you called yourself a bar, you had to use both of these terms, because Google was still matching exact strings. Google was not understanding topics or synonyms. So this is the kind of content that we as SEOs had to publish and create. And I'm definitely guilty of creating such content in order to rank in Google. So basically what we created was a lot of garbage that Google then had to crawl through to find the right content. And what now is actually the case is that instead of optimizing for these individual exact match keywords, we have switched in SEO to optimizing for topic clusters and for search intent. So here's an example. In 2013, a colleague of mine Googled a little bit around and took some screenshots, and we searched for 3 keywords: headache cures, headache relief, and migraine remedies. And now if you think about it, if you went to a human who is an expert on headache cures, that same human would probably also be an expert on headache relief. So you would go to the same person, and the same answer would probably also satisfy both questions. Now, if you look at the pages that are ranking, there's actually only a single article that made it into the Google top 10 for 2 of these keywords. and every single other ranking was unique, completely unique. And you can also see that for headache cures, everything that's ranking has headache cures and it has an exact match in the title, etc., etc. Now, if we do the same search a couple of years later, and this has actually been the case for many years now, you will find that at least 4 articles rank for all 3 keywords, and a couple more articles rank for multiple keywords, even if they don't rank for all 3. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is that keywords are dead in the sense that you don't need to optimize for the exact matching string. You can now use synonyms, you can use similar words, related words, but still it's of course very beneficial to put the topic you are writing about in the title tag. But you don't need to write bar, pub, public house, Irish pub. Another rumor that I often hear is that entity-based indexing is supposed to change everything. And of course, there are some phenomena that suggest that this is true. So if we look at actor kid with weird eyebrows, Google actually knows that I'm searching for William Jack Poulter, even though in his Wikipedia article it doesn't necessarily have all of these words, but Google recognizes that I need this specific entity. And the same is true when I search for a name of that French actor who is often drunk. We can all guess that it's Gérard Depardieu. So again, Google matches the entity, not the exact strings that I typed into the search engine. But then on the other hand, if I look at what Google is currently offering in their natural language processing API, we can see that if we talk about any other language but English, many of the features are not available. So something like an entity sentiment analysis is not available in French, German, Italian, Korean, Portuguese. And if we look at the NLP API from Bing or Microsoft Azure, we can see that, again, they have a lot for English and Spanish, but then for all the other languages, a lot is missing. And when you go to languages like Greek, a lot is actually missing. And of course, there's the argument that the search engines have behind closed curtains a lot more than they offer via their NLP APIs. But if you look at the, I would say, cloud war that is currently going on, I'm very sure that Microsoft and Google would, any advantage that they have in NLP, they would make available over their APIs, because like we had the software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service competition between the Google Cloud, Azure, and AWS. And right now, the big race is who's going to be the platform for machine learning and natural language processing. So I highly doubt that they have in the background a lot more than they are offering here. Probably in experimental stages, sure, but something that's live in the ranking index, I would doubt it. There's a different perspective on this. A very recent announcement from Google that they now basically let you search through multiple online shops by product. So they identify a certain jacket and know that it's available in different stores for different prices. So this is a form of entity-based indexing. And the announcement from Google looks really interesting. But we need to see how real this actually is. I don't know if you remember the announcement that you will soon be able to surf on apps that don't have a website without installing the app directly in Google. There was also a nice blog post from Google 2 years ago, but I rarely or never saw it in real life, and definitely not anywhere outside the US in English. So we need to see how much of an index, entity-based indexing this really is, and how much Google is just using some identifiers that are provided via the IDs in, I think we have an issue with the IDs that are provided in the feeds that Google is reading here. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that entity-based indexing might change a lot of things in the near future. It very, very definitely will change a lot in the I would say, medium to long distance. But whatever is happening right now, it's unclear how much it's really entity-based indexing. The next rumor that I regularly hear is that fast websites rank better. And here we looked at some data. So we crawled for a couple of 10,000 keywords, actually, the first 20 Google results, and ran a lighthouse audit on every single URL. And as you can see, when we then calculated the averages for each lighthouse audit score for each position. And here you can see that very, very clearly the very well-ranking websites have much better audit scores for the audit minified CSS than the not so well-ranking URLs. We have a similar correlation for users minified JavaScript. Again, an indicator that a website cares about site speed and cares about being quick and fast. But of course, this is correlation data, very important. We are observing correlation, not necessarily causation. But what we can clearly say is that for all of these audits that suggest that a website is fast, cares about being fast, there seems to be a correlation between well-ranking website and fast website. And this is, I think, best summarized with the Lighthouse audit time to first meaningful paint, where we can very, very clearly see that especially the top 3 URLs on average have much, much better scores here than the positions further behind. And one really great case study that was published by an e-commerce marketplace in Asia. They ran a Lighthouse audit, and as you can see, performance was horrible. And then they did a lot of performance tuning work and optimized especially loading times, performance, also improved on the progressive web app, but didn't really improve on any of the other areas, including SEO, by the way, even though the Lighthouse SEO audit is very basic anyways. And for them, it reduced the page load time by 65% and increased organic traffic by 63%. It also increased some of their conversion goals, which don't really matter here. But it was very clear that by providing a faster website, they had a better user experience, had better rankings, had more traffic from Google. There are some other numbers from sometimes clients of us, sometimes just random publicly available numbers, where increasing the speed of the website, so decreasing page load time, led to an increase in conversions. And there's another case study from an e-commerce client of us that I'm not allowed to name, but basically in 2018, over the course of the year, they cut their loading times in half from over 8 seconds to less than 4 seconds. And at the same time, the SEO visibility increased by 40%. And this is a JavaScript-based e-commerce site, so quite a challenge to make it fast and still have good usability. Then I found an interesting tweet from Dana Titamosa, where she did a very simple thing. She had a client who was on a really crappy web hoster, and she just moved them to a fast web hoster. That's the only thing she changed. She didn't minify JavaScript. She didn't remove unused CSS. She didn't include any kind of caching. She didn't reduce the number of database calls. She just moved them to a faster web server, and conversion rates went up 28%. So again, another proof point that a fast website is really, really good. So to summarize this, I would say successful websites are fast. And again, it's an observation. It's not necessarily causation. And to be more precise, I would say successful websites are faster than the competition. So I would absolutely agree that making a website fast helps. For most websites, it's not the low-hanging fruit in SEO. It's not the first thing I would tackle, but definitely something you should look at. The next rumor that I often hear is that mobile is now changing everything in SEO. And we all know these charts that even 5 years ago, the number of sold mobile phones was greatly outperforming the number of sold desktop computers. But let's look at some data. One of my favorite data points I like to look at is keywords that are mainly searched on desktop versus keywords that are mainly searched on mobile devices. So here we see a couple of questions that people ask mainly on desktop computers. So the percentages there is the percentage of search queries for this exact question that happens on desktop. These are questions like how do solar panel works, why go to college, when to apply for Medicare, how to write a cover letter. And now imagine you are searching for this on your desktop computer. These are, in some cases, complex questions where you are probably ready to watch a longer video or read long-form content. Probably questions where you are willing to read multiple sources, get multiple opinions, and where you are probably ready to have a longer session of searching and consuming data, consuming information. Now, on the other hand, if we look at questions that are mainly asked on smartphones, of course, what song is this? This is a very popular one. And then also, how long does cocaine stay in your system, or how long does alcohol stay in your system, when to take a pregnancy test. And now imagine the context. It's clearly very different from sitting down in front of your computer, starting research on why go to college, right? If you get up in the morning and you feel necessary to search on your phone for how long does cocaine stay in your system, you are probably not willing to read a long text. You probably don't want to read a 20-minute video. You probably don't care about the scientifically correct answer that includes that you need to put into account your gender, weight, age, muscle mass, etc., etc. You probably want a very direct answer like, is it 4 hours or 20 hours? Like, can I go to work or do I need to put in a sick day? Not that I've ever been there. And as you can see from this, you need very different content to answer these mobile-heavy questions versus answering these desktop-heavy questions. And we have some data points that actually support this theory. So for, I believe this is this healthcare data in the US. And we again looked at the top 20 Google rankings and looked at how long is the content. And we did it on desktop and mobile, and you can see that content on mobile is on average 30% shorter. And we also analyzed the average length, or the average length of lists, so the average number of bullet points per unsorted list. And again, we can see that on mobile, the well-ranking content has shorter lists. And it makes sense, right? On desktop, I want all the 15 bullet points. Give me all the details. Worst case, I just skip it. I have a huge monitor, a lot of screen real estate that we can use for a long list. Whereas on mobile, I have very little screen real estate. I can't look far ahead. I don't have a lot of time, so give me the 3 most important bullet points. So to summarize this, I would say that for mobile, yes, content must be a bit different because it's not just about responsive layouts. You need really mobile optimized content and content consumption experiences. Otherwise, you will not truly make your mobile visitors happy. And don't quote me on the 6% number. It's not really scientific. But I looked at a large sample of websites and looked at ranking difference on desktop and mobile, and then evened them out as averages across all keywords. And in the end, what you come up with is that for most websites, the difference between performance on Google Desktop versus performance on Google Mobile is only roughly 6%. So for most websites, not a huge issue. But this could, of course, be caused by the fact that in some industries, every website is shitty on mobile, and then Google just has to rank shitty mobile experiences. So it's not the biggest SEO concern for everyone, but you should check out if it's an SEO concern for you. And of course, there's a whole field of search queries which are rising crazily fast, which are the near-me searches. So this is a look that I had a few months ago in our database, and I found over 400,000 near-me keywords. And just for repair near me, I found almost 9,000 keywords. And of course, all of these have search volume, all of these have traffic, and all of these have people behind them who have a problem and are ready to convert. And if you want to rank for the near me stuff, I would actually only look at mobile and would optimize only for the mobile experiences. There are, of course, near me searches that are searched on desktop, but I would completely focus on mobile for this. Another topic is that mobile apps change everything. And let's look at the keyword dating searched on desktop. We have ads, we have normal results, a news box, an image box. And then let's search for dating on an iPad. And suddenly we only have 2 organic results. And one of them is Wikipedia, which probably does not really fulfill the search intent. And then we have this gigantic colored box of apps. And these app packs are insanely visible. And there is no way around them. Like you can have the best optimized snippet. If there's an app pack, the app pack wins for attention. So I would say apps are a challenge, but also an opportunity. And if you are in a market segment where you see a lot of app packs, just get an app. And if you have a progressive web app as a website, it's very easy to turn it into an app that is listed in the app stores. The next rumor I hear regularly is that voice search will change everything. And of course, there are Siri and Alexa and Google Home. And I also have all of these at home, plus Cortana, and I try to use them a lot. But do they really change everything? There's a study from Stone Temple that I can really recommend, and maybe we can include it in the follow-up email, where they ask a lot of people, does it annoy you when others speak commands to their phone or do like a voice search? And roughly half the people are in some way annoyed by it. The others don't care or don't care at all. And funnily enough, they also did a breakdown by demographic group. And the group of people who is most annoyed are older white men. But the group that is mostly doing this in public is also older white men. That was, I think, a nice observation. And I asked my colleagues how they feel about me, because I try to always try out new technology. That's why I'm also making a fool of myself on TikTok right now. So one of the things I do is I get out my phone every day when I go for lunch break, and I ask, do I need an umbrella? Do I need a jacket? Et cetera, et cetera. And then Siri answers. And of course, Siri doesn't write it on the screen. It talks. So I asked the colleagues who have to sit around me, hey, does this annoy you? The answer was very clear. It annoys all of them. I still continue doing it because it's important to adapt to new technology. I have another interesting number on voice search, 13%. And I will give you a teaser image. And let that sink in for a second. 13% is the number of people who think it's totally fine that when they are in a public restroom to speak commands to their phone. So when you're in a public restroom, be prepared that there's someone in the stall next to you. Say something like, hey Siri, call mom, or hey Siri, how long does cocaine stay in the system? We all know who that is. And if you are like me, you have been taught at a very young age that if you want to get a computer to tell you how old she is, you have to say Queen Elizabeth's age, right? You have to butcher your language to type a very short number of strings into a search bar, and then you hit enter. But if you are still young, or probably if you have young children who have grown up with voice commands, they would say something like, hey Siri, how old is the Queen? So they will use natural language. They will speak a much more natural, much longer search query. And we can actually see this. The average length of voice searches is much longer than the average length of typed searches. So if anybody is still doing keyword research, like I did it 5 years ago, or not 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where you would cut out everything that has more than 3 spaces in it because you don't care about the long tail, you only want to rank for the short-head terms where all the traffic is, please change your keyword research process. Please include all the keywords that are super long, have a lot of spaces, because these often contain the most insight about how the audience thinks about the topic, what the audience actually wants to know. And with the rise of voice search, we will have more and more of these longer searches. Yeah, and then of course there's the OK Google stuff. So you know that you can speak to your device and say, OK Google, do something. And the big problem is that there are no statistics on this, right? Google has been promising for 3 years to show us some insights in Google Search Console and voice search. If you have your own skill, you of course know what kind of commands are spoken to your skill, but you have no way right now to find out what the hell do people say to a Google Home device. Luckily, people are stupid. So what happens sometimes is that people want to speak a voice command, but they accidentally type the button on the keyword to dictate the command as a search query. Or sometimes it happens that they speak to their phone expecting a reaction, but maybe it's the wrong assistant. Maybe they do it on their iPhone, or maybe there's an issue with their Android, and then Google just performs a search. And this is really good for me because if a search is performed, I end up being able to get these keywords from related searches. I'm able to grab search volume for the keyword. So we have a couple of thousand keywords that start with OK Google in our database that I like to call accidental voice search. And here you can see that people search for things like OK Google what, OK Google how. And especially when you look at like something like OK Google show, you already know this was not an actual search. This was people trying to tell their Google device to show them something, or Google tell me a joke. And there are, in the United States, every month, on average, 2.6 million searches for OK Google. And I do believe there's a couple of thousand, maybe 10,000 people who search for OK Google. But I guarantee you most of this is accidental. It's people who wanted to do something else. And then there is still over 100,000 people every month searching for OK Google, OK Google. There is still over 20,000 people every month searching for OK Google, OK Google, OK Google. And I know when I say this, that happens when my Google device is doing something and I want it to stop. And I try to be friendly, so I never say just Google stop, because there will be the uprising of the machines like in Terminator, and I want them to remember that I was always nice to them. Then there is the OK Google, OK Google, OK Google, OK Google. This is now probably already somebody shouting at their device because they think they don't understand them. They don't realize that they are speaking a search query. They think there should be a reaction happening. It's still 7,000 people every month. And a poor 3,000 people a month actually have to go to, I will not say it out because it would make me too angry and have to shout, then say it even one more time, OK Google, just trying to get the device to do something. And just by the fact that all of this is ending up in Google and is then ending up in our database shows us, I believe, that voice commands are still in its infancy. And there will be a lot in the future around voice. But if all of this is accidentally resulting in a Google search, I don't believe that it's the big game changer yet. And most of the statistics you see out there about companies actually making revenue with voice assistants and e-commerce actually happening like this. Seriously, apart from Gary Vee recording a video to say, hey, Alexa, buy me a handbag, I don't think that in e-commerce and transactional stuff, a lot is happening via voice yet. There are, of course, exceptions, something like paying your utilities with a defined skill. There's a lot of potential for that, also for voice skills, for e-commerce sites that tell you when your package will arrive. But all of this is not traditional search, and it's not really something that's eating away from what SEOs do with capturing traffic from search engines. Yeah, so now I already gave you my takeaway here. There's one more thing. Is voice more important than a website? And I've actually have seen this question that people were thinking about, hey, we don't need a website for a brand anymore. We will only live in the knowledge graph and on Google Maps and in the voice assistants. I would like to remind everybody what happened, like, I think 8 years ago when a couple of websites shut down to only live on social media. So we have now this news, they shut down. Well, 3 years later, there was the big news that they brought back their website. Now they have a website again. There was the big announcement that a Zambian publication shut down their website to be on Facebook and Twitter. If you go there now, they have a website again. And this head is not a political statement, but I think we should all agree that it's important to make websites great again and keep them great and make them ready for mobile, make them ready for voice search, but don't ditch your website for a skill on a voice assistant. Next rumor, mobile indexing changes everything. And here I have an interesting story that I unfortunately had to anonymize. So we all know this navigation on Wikipedia where I can click on, for example, procedure, and then I'm taken to the subtopic of Wikipedia. For the visitors from the UK, this is the Wikipedia article on withdrawal from the European Union. I suggest everybody read it. And of course, in Google, then when you search for this inside site link, this jump link, it shows up in Google. And we had a case where this showed up for a client. But if you clicked on it, you didn't get anywhere. You had it in the URL, but the browser didn't jump. And if you search in the source code, there were 0 jump marks. So why did Google think it was appropriate to provide this jump mark that was also labeled differently than all the subheadlines that it could potentially be? And we found out after a while that the client, being very smart, had installed a new WordPress theme. And this WordPress theme had automatically generated from every subheadline a jump mark on mobile and only on mobile, and provided a navigation to jump there. So Google actually was mobile indexing this client, was seeing the jump link, and was showing it also on desktop, which is, by the way, proof that A, mobile indexing can be dangerous, and B, that sometimes Google truly is doing only mobile indexing, even if the content is different on desktop. And I think now we skipped the picture of me being confused and then the explanation of the difference between desktop and mobile. And this is really something that people need to think about, because if I'm very sure if I go to any SEO department anywhere right now, even if they have 1,000 automated tests running with a software like Tomato or something every day, they run them on desktop. If people quickly crawl their website after the IP department published something, they crawl the desktop version. But if Google is crawling your mobile version, you need to run all your tests, all your health checks, all your sanity checks, all your crawling, all your quality assurance on mobile. It's actually more important than doing it on desktop. Also, when you quickly go on your website to see if something changed after the IPT department deployed something, do it with a mobile user agent. Ideally, do it on the phone that you have the right size and everything, but seriously, do it. Because desktop for many websites is no longer the one source of truth for Google indexing. Then there's a very interesting study from Moz. They crawled with desktop and mobile user agent 20,000 homepages and checked if the links are the same. And surprise, surprise, on 13% of homepages, the links are different on mobile versus desktop. It is even more extreme if you look at unique links. So 75% of internal and external links, 75% of external links now only exist on mobile, on desktop. And this number is highly, highly, highly influenced by Twitter and Facebook widgets. I don't have all the numbers internally from Moz, but I guess it's like 70% of these, that the sharing plugins are just different on mobile versus on desktop. But still, there are external links that are only visible on desktop, that are not visible on mobile. WordPress is a great example. For many WordPress blogs, they have a teaser of the article on the homepage. So they tease maybe 20 articles. So they have like 40 external links on the homepage. If you go to the mobile version, you see only 5 articles and much shorter teasers. And suddenly 40 external links turn into 10 external links. But any website, any backlink database in the world right now is Google desktop-based crawling. So you might see a ton of backlinks in these backlink databases that don't exist on mobile, that Google doesn't see on mobile, that Google doesn't crawl and index, that Google doesn't count. And this is really interesting for people who still do active link building. I discourage you from doing active link building. I think it's an outdated tactic in most countries. But if you're doing it, if you are building individual links, if you are monitoring that individual links still exist, are you sure you do it with a mobile user agent? Or are you doing it with a desktop user agent? Think about that and adapt your process. The next rumor that I hear regularly, ranking factors are dead. So we looked at a metric for a couple of different topics. We again crawled thousands of keywords and looked at the Google top 10. And on average, they had a length of 1,700 words. Now, you could deduct from that it's an SEO best practice if you want to rank in the Google top 10 to write at least 1,700 words. Is that true? No, of course not. Because if you split it into different industries, you can see that the average length of an article in the Google top 10 varies greatly. So for example, for camping, 700 words are enough on average because you probably have a list with a couple of things that are important, and then you have pictures. On the other hand, for financial planning, even 1,600 words are not enough. You need almost double that. because it's a complex topic, you need to explain a lot, you probably have some legal disclaimers you need to include, etc., etc. So sometimes you need long content, sometimes you need short content. And the same is true for almost any other ranking factor. You will find industries where this ranking factor has a high correlation with ranking. You will find industries where it doesn't correlate with ranking. You will find industries where the average value is high or where the average value is low. For example, when I search for buy sneakers online, probably having a lot of images, small images, is good because it allows me as a human to quickly make a visual decision. On the other hand, if I search for buy Air Force One black size 6 with unicorn application, it probably doesn't make sense to show me a lot of small pictures because I already know exactly what I want. Show me a couple of large pictures. And we can also see this in ranking factor studies where, depending on the search intent, is it browsing, selecting, or buying something? Is it informational or transactional? Different factors have completely different signals. Then the best one, BERT changes everything. We heard this so many times. So the worst rumors on BERT I heard was that it's related to schema and that URLs get a BERT score. And both of this is complete and utter bullshit. So let's look at some data. And luckily, there are all these tools that provide me with information on how impactful a Google update was. So let's look in the upper left. There we can see the BERT update was supposedly on, I think it's the 19th. And there was a very small spike on the 19th. Let's look at the tool on the bottom. There, the BERT update wasn't on the 19th. It was on the 22nd for some reason. And there's zero increase. And then let's look at the third tool. They didn't exactly name when the BERT update was, but again, there is not really a noticeable spike. And just by the fact that the tools that try to monitor the impact of Google updates cannot agree on which day the BERT update was rolled out, because Google didn't provide a rollout date. They only talked about a longer time frame. And also by the fact that there is no noticeable spike, at least not when compared to core updates, we can already conduct that there wasn't a point in time where BERT was turned on and everything changed. And if you look at what BERT actually does, a lot of BERT is recognizing words and their relationships. So if you search for something like train from Leeds to Liverpool, but you actually had train from London to whatever via Leeds and Liverpool, you could have ranked before because you had all the individual terms somewhere on your website. It makes sense. But now BERT actually recognizes that from city to city, that these have a relation. These are topics that have a meaning and a relation, and also via train is important. So if you have on your website via plane and just have somewhere in your content, oh, by the way, this is not on a train, with before BERT, Google might have matched the strings. It's, oh yeah, it contains all the words, it's good content. So the kind of rankings you lost from BERT are these kind of rankings where you were just ranking randomly and didn't really fulfill the search intent. And I have seen no website that suffered from BERT. So it's a big change for Google, how they process queries and how they process language, but it's not a huge update in terms of ranking changes and losing or gaining traffic. Yeah, that was already my takeaway here. You don't get traffic from Google anymore. People have me telling this for 10 years, I think. So let's start with an example. Who has the most subscribers on YouTube? It's a valid question. And of course, it's PewDiePie. And this answer is a featured snippet because Google is quoting here from Wikipedia. Or I can ask another question like, how old is Boris Johnson? And Google knows this from their knowledge graph. They don't even need to give a website as a source. They are so sure that they know the right answer, they just display the direct answer. And I have a keyword set of a couple of thousand questions in multiple languages in multiple countries where I track every week how many of these questions does Google answer with a featured snippet or direct answer. It doesn't mean that it's the right answer, by the way. And this number has in recent months increased to 49%. So in the English language, Google is already able to provide an answer to half the questions that are entered into Google. And this is, of course, really bad if my whole business model is based on answering simple questions with simple answers. And it means that I need to either start the journey on my website by very strong branding, or I need to become a destination where people do something. If I'm only an information provider, Google will indeed steal my traffic. And we can see the same with many other comparison things. We can see the same with Google Jobs, for example. So this is happening. And just look at the animal sounds thing, where Google will provide you the sound of a cow or a tiger in the search results. This is killing a complete set of tablet apps that existed previously. Yeah, so that's the takeaway, right? If you have simple stuff, Google will take it from you. I see we are nearing the time to end this, so I will be more quick with this topic. I often hear that backlinks are dead. But actually, if you see, look at Google Trends for example, link building versus real-time bidding, actually interest in link building has increased again. But if you look at the countries where link building has the strongest trend versus SEO, we can see that it's not the most developed, most mature SEO markets. But globally, there's a lot of interest. But also in the Western world, I've recently seen a couple of websites on pet products that really rose in SEO visibility based on mainly backlinks, website on baby products, a website on beauty products, and a whole network of these. But then there were a couple of Google updates, and they lost all their rankings because they had shitty content. So I would say you can still win with backlinks a lot, but if backlinks are the only thing that your ranking is based on at some point, Google will take it away. Another rumor, usability is important. And here I've reduced it to one Google Lighthouse audit again, but there are other audits you could use for the hotel space and the car rental space. We can see that the audit does not use unreadable font, is clearly correlated to ranking. And there are many other audits you could use to get the same results. But to cut this short, I would say that to succeed in SEO, you should build a website with really great usability. And now we come to the last topic. Content must be updated. That's a common rumor that I hear. And I would say this is probably the best SEO trick I've been telling people for 5 years. And still after 5 years, it's the best SEO trick I can give anybody anywhere. So let's quickly look at an example. If you search for best graphic cards, you see a search result from PC Gamer, and it already contains the word 2020 in the title, and it was written on January 2nd. Let's go to that website. Okay, it's super long. We can't read it all. But if we analyze it, it has 2020 in the title. It was apparently written 17 days ago, and it has a comment section. So let's maybe look at the comments. It has 2,000 comments. That's a lot for just 17 days. They are sorted by newest. Let's resort by oldest. And then the oldest comment is 5 years ago. So the comment is 5 years older than the article itself. That doesn't make sense. Well, we have the Wayback Machine to the rescue. So actually, this article is from 2014, and the Wayback Machine crawled it a couple of times since then, so we can analyze what they did. And we can already see that visually the article changed a lot. Like it changed completely the title, the header graphic, everything. And in the past, they were very basic in their updates. Like they just wrote, hey, we updated this. And they are nice tools to look at the difference between two texts. And I used this on the current version and the previous version. So you can see that they were very diligent about updating the date. You can see that they don't just reference the date. They also they don't just update the year number. They also reference the date and previous months and things. They sometimes slightly tweak language. Oh, sorry, that was too quick, by only changing the word routinely to often. They also sometimes rewrote complete paragraphs. They also updated the pricing data. It's probably coming in automatically. They included newer models for the comparison. They added current rumors, but they also removed previous or outdated news and rumors. They sometimes leave whole paragraphs the same. They sometimes remove outdated graphic cards. They sometimes remove time-based content, like on Black Friday. And this has allowed them for the past couple of years to continuously rank in the Google top 5 for the term graphics card, and also for 3,798 other keywords in our database. And these are interesting keywords like graphics card, graphic card, best graphic card for gaming, best gaming GPU, keywords where they get thousands of visitors every month and would have to pay thousands of dollars every month to get the same traffic via Google AdWords. And they don't have just one article like this. They also have this for best gaming PC. Oh, sorry, one step too fast. Best gaming PC, best PC games, best survival games, best free games, best gaming laptops. They have a ton of others that sometimes rank for up to 6,000 different keywords, that sometimes get up to 100,000 visitors every month, where you would have to pay $100,000 every month to get the same traffic from AdWords. So they do this super successfully, like updating the evergreen content again and again and again instead of publishing news articles all the time. And they are the clear winner in this space. So they had a slight lead already a couple of years ago, but they really built up to this over the last 2 or 3 years. So the takeaway here is that, yes, evergreen content, if it is time sensitive, like best graphics card, should be updated continuously all the time. It's the best SEO advice I can give you. Do it instead of publishing 50 different tests for graphic cards and 50 different articles. Have that one article and update it again and again and again and again. And with that, I would say it's time for you to ask questions and for me to answer them if I can.
Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting and funny presentation. I learned a lot, and I think that our audience also learned a lot. So I see that we have a lot of questions already. Okay, so the first one is like, the transition from a boost keyword slide to headache your SERPs was genius. Was that intentional?
Let's claim yes.
Well done. Okay, and then there's another question. What's the right time spent to update your content? Only when losing ranking, when there's an update on the topic, or something else?
So when you already lose rankings, that's definitely a time when you should do it. Ideally, you do it earlier. I know one company that's doing it really well, and since they spoke publicly about it, I can also mention it here. Ebner Publishing, a client of ours, they have this system where when they create a new article, they already put in the editorial calendar in 1 month, check the numbers and update it. In 2 months, turn the images of the article into an Instagram post. In 1 month, make a SlideShare presentation out of this article. In 3 months, completely rewrite the article. In 6 months, completely question if this is still the right content, we need to change it. And such a process where you already put the future updates and also reusing the content different formats into your editorial calendar helps a lot. On average, I would say I would touch my evergreen content at least every 3 months. But if it's super time sensitive, even more often.
Okay. So then we have another question. You mentioned that Google already provides so much information in the SERPs, like 49%. And how do you measure success when Google already provides so much information in the SERPs?
I mean, the question is, what's your goal? If you need visitors to go to your website and convert there, of course, you could just measure the organic traffic that you get. What we do in our software is that we don't just measure SEO visibility. We also look at how many feature snippets are there and how much are you showing up, how many image boxes are there, how much are you showing up, how many AdWords are there, how much are you showing up, etc., etc. And if you are a brand that doesn't necessarily convert online, like, I don't know, McDonald's, you don't need the visitor to be on your website to find out when your restaurant is open. It's completely fine if they get that information from Google Maps or from a direct answer. And then you don't care about the traffic, right? You care about fulfilling the search intent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then there's another question, a completely different topic, but it's about like the impact of into 2020. So which impact will Google Flights or Google Hotel have on the travel sector in 2020? What do you think?
Oh, I think Google Hotels already had its impact on the travel sector. I believe in terms of number of bookings that they send to hotels, they are already among the top platforms. At least that's the number I got the last time I spoke to a hotel chain. Google Flights is an interesting one because the organic Google Flights is almost completely gone, or maybe now completely gone, was replaced by the paid version of Google Flights, but I have not monitored that space too closely. I've seen examples where I've typed Ryanair into Google, and instead of the Ryanair website on position 1, I got Google Flights. So I think that's having a huge impact. And Google, if you look at what Google is doing with hotels, if you just look at the hotel knowledge graph, it already contains every information that all the booking platforms have. It shows you activities, target audience, map, pictures, everything. So very, very clearly, Google is a huge competitor of Booking, TripAdvisor, and co. And if I was a hotel chain, I would definitely make sure to optimize there. But long term, all of these things are going to be pay to play.
Okay, interesting. So I see there are no more questions right now. Then I would like to say thank you very much to you, and thank you very much to the audience. And yeah, please take part in our survey now.
Yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and thanks for all the good questions. And then bye-bye from Berlin.
Bye.